Okay. Verse 8. I'm going to repeat that one again. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife did hide themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. In verse 9. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? Now don't think for one chance that God didn't know where Adam was. And that God didn't know already what happened. But just hear me out and let this play out. Verse 10. And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. Verse 11. And he said, this is what God is saying. Who told thee thou was naked? He's asking him a question. He's asking him, he's calling him out now. Okay? Who told you was naked? And then he's saying to him, it's all clarity purposes now, because I already know what you did. I'm all knowing. Remember, I'm God. But hast thou eaten of the tree? I want to know. Have you eaten of that tree? Whereof I commanded. See, that's a commandment. You see, just understand this is a commandment. Later on down the line, you're going to find out about the 10 commandments. But right here, chapter 3, Genesis verse 11, it says, God is saying this was a commandment. So there's actually more than 10 commandments, right? Yes. Oh, yeah. Anything that the God tells you can't do or you shouldn't do, guess what? It's a commandment. All right, continuing. He says, verse 11, and he said, Who told thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I have commanded thou that thou should not eat? He's asking him a question. Verse 12. This is Adam's his explanation. And the man said, the woman thou hast given me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. Blame. Excuses. That's entered in verse 12 of chapter 3. That's his reply. The woman, like it's your fault, God, you know? The woman you gave me, well, she gave me of the tree, you know, and I ate from it. I guess, whoop, there it is. That was his reply. Okay. So now God says in chapter 3 of Genesis, verse 13, and the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. Basically, she's saying the serpent deceived me. At least she had some honesty. The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. So here's 14. Let's see what God has to say about that. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all the cattle, cursed, upon all the cattle, above all the cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of your life. So the serpent didn't necessarily, according to this, sliver on its belly. Now it does. But back in that day, the serpent must have walked upright, because God put a curse upon the serpent and said, Thou art cursed above all the cattle, above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life, which means your life. Verse 15, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Basically, there will always be some sort of strife between Adam and his wife Eve. Verse 16. Upon the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bear forth children, and thou shalt desire thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Well, now, thank you, Eve. During child labor, we will have intense pain and suffering in bringing forth birth, creation. And instead of Eve being a partner, she was a helper to Adam. That was her purpose, to be Adam's helper. But it was to be his helper of equal dominion, power, and control. But now, God is saying basically that he shall rule over you. So, thanks again, Eve. We lost right there a little bit of our footing, so to say, because that was punishment. They weren't cursed, but they had to pay for their sin. That was God's way of dealing with them, because honestly, he spoke that in the beginning. When it means you will surely die, it didn't mean an instant death. Your heart stopped beating, all breath from life leaves your body. What it was referring to, frankly, was that they would have a separation from God. No longer be having access to the things that they had freely that was given to them. But in essence, the fall of man, they had forfeited what they had, and gave it up rightfully to the serpent. He entered them in by engaging them in lies and deception, his craftiness, and they saw with their eyes of something they desired, power, control, of equal status, as if they didn't have enough, from God, and to be gods themselves, when in actuality they would never ever have the authority of God. You see, because when God spoke and created, God can never even create another God that would be equal to himself, because if he's God and he creates something, then that creation becomes a creature, not a God. So Adam and Eve now forfeited their dominion, power, control of equal status in the likeness of God, never to be God. Let's not get that, mixed up. Never to be God, but to have the equal status of dominion, power, control, authority to be able to speak a thing like God, and so it was. Name all the animals. Not have to worry about anything. Not have to work hard. Have the earth, have the mist come up to take care of the vegetation, which is their food source, their meat. Live in harmony with the animals. All of that beautifulness. No sickness, no sorrow, no pain. They didn't know what a cry was. They didn't know that they were naked. All of that they forfeited for the desire of their flesh, of something that they saw that it looked good, so they wanted to do it. They went for a temporary gain and was deceived in believing something that would never be, knowing what God had told them to do, but making a choice, a willing choice on their own to lose it all.